Okay, good morning. I want to talk today again about my family court. What I have on the screen here is the decision of 2025 Ontario Superior Court 1037. Uh, that decision was made on February 14th of this year. I have today's date as March 24th, so by my understanding, the appeals process requires a notice of appeal to be served within 30 days that the order was made. So the order still hasn't been issued. The other party has not had their order issued, but my understanding is that from the rules of civil procedure, Rule 61 says it's from the date the order was made, and then if we look for more information on that, we get pointed at Rule 59, which indicates the order is made when it is made. In other words, but in the endorsement, this order was made on this date, February 14th. So anyway, preamble aside, the appeals window is closed. I did not serve a notice of appeal in time. So I did write one, and I did think I had grounds for an appeal, and I did talk to an appeals lawyer about this, and he dismissed me wholesale, said, if you like, you can come in for a $400 consultation where I will explain to you why you're going to lose. If the cost of the appeal is not enough, basically, I can charge you more, he offered. So that was nice. I wrote him back. I asked him to do it on a pro bono basis because I think it's important, and he did not answer again. So I considered myself, this is a final order from the Ontario Superior Court. So I won't cite the exact statute right now, but it's appeal by right of statute here. As a final order from a single judge of the Ontario Superior Court, I could have appealed this order directly to the Ontario Court of Appeal. I decided it's not important for my case, but I don't really, there's been a little bit of social media response here. I pointed it out to one channel, and there was a little bit of social media response from lawyers. There was one TikTok lawyer out of Ottawa who was yapping off about how I've been unreasonable and whatever. Anyway, he could shove it out of his fucking ass, right? Right? Fuck him. Fuck you. So, okay, that felt good. I follow these lawyers, litigation help, Helena Burt, Heather Hui Litwin, and what's his name, Schmales Stern. I don't know. They have a nice channel. They post a lot of videos. They put this video series up about this request to admit. So now I'm going to talk about the request to admit. This document breaches the civil aspects of family court. It should be subject to more civilized procedures than family court has a family court has a reputation for being profoundly uncivilized. And in this case, the judge made some errors. He made an error in his fact finding, but more importantly, he also made an error in law, and that was my strongest argument. So I'm not going to put my notice of appeal on the screen because it's on my other computer, but I did write one. It was almost ready to be served. So the reason why this is a final order is because it dispensed of the substantial right of one of the parties, in fact, both parties, the right of the respondent to rely on the response, and it also dispensed of the right of myself to litigate this matter any further. So it does not count as a temporary order. Just because we haven't had a final trial doesn't mean that all of the orders are temporary. So I'll move on here. The court made a final order in this case. They recited statute, which is another strong indicator according to case law. In general, there should be no appeal from interlocutory orders. That goes back, that's case law, that's 96 years old. So we're starting from there. So anyway, we need to determine that for there to even be a hope for an appeal, that is a final order. And a final order dispenses of the substantial right of the parties to litigate an issue, and moreover that issue has to be central to the litigation. So in bringing a motion, in civil language, that counts as actually an application, not an action. And so in bringing a motion to strike out her response to admit, or her, yeah, whatever, you know what I'm saying, to strike out her response, her Form 22A response to request to admit, that counts as a civil application to the Superior Court of Justice, and therefore the decision at the motion dispensed of that matter. And when we go to the so here the court is reciting a little bit of case law about the matter. It's kind of balderdash, to be honest with you, and here he's reciting statute. No offense, Justice Bezeritz, but we're gonna get to the bottom of what happened in that hearing. And I think you're probably relieved that appeals window is closed, because I don't think you wanted this one sent up, even though, you know, it looks on the surface, it looks like one thing. I think if we were to pull the transcripts from the hearing, you would be caught doing something very bad. Anyway, I'm just going over the grounds for appeal first here. So, wow, okay, you copy and pasted all of Rule 2. Thank you. That's really helpful. So, to avoid any further discussion on this topic. Okay, so the court has made explicit its intention to issue a final order. This was the final order right here. The mother is granted leave to file the response, which was served late. He made a finding of fact that it was served late. 68 minutes. The court doesn't work like that. Actually, the rules say that the service was effective the following Monday. So you made a finding of fact that it was 68 minutes late, and that's very cute. But realistically, it was like 3 days late, because in serving your document on Friday at 5:08 p.m., that service was effective Monday. So 68 minutes late. So anyhow, I'm not trying to relitigate that. The discretionary order is fine. Unfortunately, the court made a very serious legal error. Am I ready to discuss that yet? Let me see what's going on here. So, news magazine. Yeah, this Justice Bezeritz. Somebody I know calls you Justice Paparazzi. Oh my God, that's so funny, because you just write for the fucking news. You think you're still writing for the newspaper? I read your other shit, dude. You're up on your bench in a delusion. You just sitting there writing for the newspaper because they glorified you a little bit some time ago as Hamilton's top judge. This wasn't supposed to be a rant. It's gonna. Now, that was really inappropriate. So, we're gonna get over all this OCL stuff. Yeah, first of all, yeah, okay, I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about the deadline was January 24th at 4 p.m. We've gone over this. The fathers brought a motion to strike. All right. So here we have some case law. The parties counsel's admitted mistake in not serving a timely response. Okay. So you're not upholding that decision because in this case, the counsel did not admit they made a mistake. In fact, they did the opposite. They refused to admit that they made a mistake, and they just assumed, they expected that you were going to allow it, but they at no point did they actually admit in an adversarial manner that they made a mistake. So let's move on to your next case law. Wife's counsel advised that although he had instructions to prepare a response, through inadvertence he failed to do so. That's nice. That again, we're going to say the counsel advised. So you put it to him in the form of a leading question. That was not obtained in an adversarial manner. It was obtained in an inquisitorial manner. The court put it to him in the form of a leading question. But if counsel is to blame for a delay, the first day of trial is too late to allow the mission to be withdrawn. Okay, that's nice. So, what are you trying to tell me? I should have slept on this motion until the trial? That's the opposite. That's the opposite of what I was supposed to do. I suppose that's not really what you're saying. You're saying that maybe if they would have responded on the first day of trial, it's too late. Okay. Now, here we go. Paragraph 7. The mother's lawyer advises that late service of the response. Again, this is like the fifth time you've wrote 68 minutes? Okay, you're cute, but it was 3 days. From one point of view. Simply a matter of error or oversight. He did not. This is a lie. Let it be known. Let it be known. This is a lie right here on our screen. Justice Pazaritz put it to him in the form of a leading question in an inquisitorial manner. Nigel Smith, or whatever this dude's name is, who was standing in that day. They said Deborah was here, and she wasn't. It was Nigel Smith, and he had no clue what to say. And in a last desperate effort to avoid making this difficult decision and setting a landmark precedent, making a landmark ruling on this civil issue that is not a family issue. The standard for review here, the standard for correctness should not really be like the best interest of the children. That's peculiar. Like, how do you assess the interests of the children with regards to this civil document? You don't. You need to look at the statutes and the case law and have a clear and sober thought about it instead of deluded nonsense about 68. How many times are you going to write 68 minutes and you think you're writing for the fucking newspaper? you needed to have a clear and sober mind, understand that this is a civil matter that has breached the family law field. This is the paperwork was brought in family court, not in the civil court. The motion was brought in family court, yes, but um, that's because that was the case. However, it was a civil issue. You should have been a little bit more civil instead of, you got three social media heads to say a little bit of stuff about your 68-minute motion guy. What you should have done was looked at the evidence and not given this guy enough rope to save himself. You must think there's some weird twisted form of justice here. Twisted that, okay, yeah, you gave me in your last desperate attempt to avoid finding in my favor when all the evidence said that you should have, because not only did they impeach themselves completely in the responding affidavit, they at no point accepted responsibility for being late, at no point asked for an extension, and at no point advised that they were late due to an error or oversight or anything to this effect at all. The other lawyer just said, Your Honor, I want to rely on Rule 2, a procedure that is fair to all parties. Well, excuse me. They are properly represented and I am not. And so they're not following the rules and the timelines. The the fair, what would be fair to all parties would be in this case, writing this wrong, and you've moved the goalposts on me here at some point. Marshalling. Oh, now you put that word in Helena Burt's mouth. She read this, she liked it, now she uses this. Tell me I'm wrong. Marshalling is evidence for trial. Now you've fucking moved the goalposts here and made some arbitrary. Here we go. The father admits there is no real prejudice to him by having received the response to admit 68 minutes late. Again, that was put to me now in a leading question. That it was a yes or no. He flat out cross-examined me on behalf of the other party, to get to, in order to justify writing this type of shit. So no, there was prejudice to me, and I explained it. The prejudice was grander than one singular instance. It was that the opposing party isn't following any rules or deadlines. They're making a mockery of the whole system, and basically you refuse to uphold the dignity of the court here. And you turned around on me and saying that what I was doing was disgraceful to the court by asking for some compliance with some kind of rules here and trying to draw a line in the sand where enough's enough. Enough breaking these deadlines and whatever. But instead, this is the most ironic thing in the world. I'm here looking for deemed admissions that were obtained through it correctly through a civil procedure. I'm looking for the court to validate that there have been these deemed admissions when presumably I'm entitled to rely on these deemed admissions. And instead of doing that, the court actually, it's the funniest thing, they deemed admissions on me. I did not make this admission. He cross-examined me. He put it to me in a leading question where I said very clearly, no, I think that this is the other side just demonstrating that they have power and control and they don't even need to follow the rules. The court, even when presented with evidence, decided I'm just going to ignore this evidence. Where is it here? Oh my God, yeah. Father doesn't accept this explanation. He feels it was a deliberate attempt to exercise power or control. He points to previous situations in which he feels the mother has deliberately created a nuisance. The mother's lawyer. So you're being disingenuous. You are trying to make me look like a fool, and you know what, the window's closed on this now, but that's why I'm putting this video up. Because maybe I can't afford the $1,000 and the 100 hours of work to perfect a fucking appeal, to go try and convince another panel of judges that you have done this. But I can put a video on the internet and I can tell people, I can tell my audience of 0 that you've done this. And I tell you what, they're gonna believe me. Right? This reads like shit. And it's like almost like it's unbelievable, like it's unrealistic. Like you have really tried to make me look so unreasonable here, which is total balderdash. You know, yeah, I went on a swearing tirade. I had to vent some of my anger about this. You know, I'm gonna try and cut it out. Yeah, may also fall under the nuisance category. Okay, you know, you're right about that. If that was, you know, if it was the only reason. But it's not the only reason. It's just the most salient, but the merits of this motion were that this is the 3rd time that they've ignored deadlines and dicked me around in this case, and I was asking you to enforce a rule, and based on irrelevant case law, fucking irrelevant case law, because none of these situations, I mean, they're remotely similar, but in all of these cases, it appears that the lawyer admitted to some oversight or error, which here you just made a finding of fact that was just not true. It was corrupt and unethical. Yeah, I hope you lose your job.